The previous episode ended at the Duke of Vitolang's residence in the capital. When the maid entered and informed William's assistant, she said, "I heard that the Duke and Duchess of Vitolang have arrived in the capital," to which he replied, "Is that true? They're a bit late for the expected time." So the maid said, "The Duke said he would go directly to the palace with the princess, and the Duchess would come directly to the Vitolang residence." He looked at her and said, "All right, bring me my jacket. I must go out and welcome the Duchess." At that time, Renee arrived and looked at the mansion, saying to herself, "So this is the Vitolang residence in the capital." A man named Laban approached her and said, "Hello, Your Grace. Welcome to the Vitolang residence. My name is Laban Chaston." Then Laban looked at her and said, "As the eldest son of the Chaston family, I serve the Duke of Vitolang. Our families have a long-standing relationship." She looked at him and thought to herself, "Count Chaston. That family owns the largest trading group in the kingdom of Lahin. The Chaston family is a new aristocratic family that rose from the commoner rank. They have high skills in trade and have a vast network of information." Then she looked at Laban and continued to think to herself, "The family has acquired many enemies due to the way they gained so much influence in a short period of time. Like the Vitolang family, Chaston is one of the closest supporters of the princess." Renee extended her hand to him, saying, "It's an honor to meet you, Chaston." Laban kissed her hand and replied, "And likewise." Then he said, "Shall we go in?" As they walked, Laban asked, "I heard His Highness went directly to the palace. Is that correct?" Renee replied, "Yes, he did." Laban smiled and said, "His Highness is the princess's right hand, so they're often together. They have a very important task to accomplish, so I pray that you will be wise in your behavior as his wife." Renee said in surprise, "An important task?" Laban looked at her angrily and said, "Let me be clear. It will be difficult for you if you feel jealous of the time they spend together, all because of a mistaken belief that your marriage to him means something. So don't try to come between the princess and the duke. Be calm and still. Hiding in a corner and doing nothing is your family's specialty, so I trust you will continue this tradition." Renee was shocked by his words and was silent in anger. When she reached her room, she said to him, "Don't worry. I'm not at all interested in the kind of women that man spends time with or what he does with them." Laban was angered and said, "That man? How dare you treat the head of the Vitolang family so rudely?" But she entered the room and said, "The same goes for any man he chooses to spend time with, so don't worry." Then she slammed the door in his face as he angrily asked, "What did you just say?" And then, with sadness, she said to herself, "Don't let petty things upset you, Luna. In the end, your goal is to find evidence that can reveal the truth of that night." Therefore, she was searching William's office every night. This angered Laban, and he pounded on William's desk, saying, "Sir, why did you bring that woman here? Why did you choose a woman like her to be the Duchess of Vitolang?" But William said, "Be careful what you say, Laban. As I said, she is the Duchess of Vitolang. Respect her." So with tension, Laban said, "Oh, but sir, that woman doesn't even respect you as her husband. Instead of going to your marital bedroom, she has spent the last few nights wandering around the palace, and there are rumors among the servants that a witch has entered the Vitolang residence. It might be the Duchess, but she looks down on her husband and spies like a thief. No one in the Vitolang residence is happy to have her here." And William pondered what he would do with her. The scene then shifts to nighttime, as Luna once again goes to his office to search for any evidence of her parents' murder and the destruction of her kingdom. She thinks to herself, "This is the Duke of Vitolang's office. I've searched everywhere else so far, but I haven't been able to find anything that seems like evidence. Every night, while everyone was asleep, I've been wandering around the palace." She goes to his desk and looks at the papers, saying to herself, "This is the only place left. This room is rarely left unguarded, so I haven't been able to get in. But the Duke left the palace today, so I can access it." She starts searching through the papers and exclaims, "This is it!" With tension, she says, "The investigation records of the Libathon incident." Great attention was paid to the details describing the burning of the castle. If the Duke of Vitolang was the one who wrote these reports, I should be able to find out what happened before I arrive. Suddenly, she is shocked to see a lion emblem and thinks to herself, lions are a symbol reserved for the royal family, but I've never seen this particular design before. Suddenly, she is startled and turns around when she hears Laban say to her, "To think the Duchess of Vitalang is more of a mouse than a human." And here, Laban interrupted, saying, "If wandering around in the middle of the night and snooping through other people's things isn't the act of a mouse, then I don't know what is, and tonight isn't the only night." Suddenly, all the servants arrived, and he continued, "I'm sure everyone here has witnessed your actions. You've been wandering around the palace." Luna responded, "The Duke of Vitolang is investigating my parents' murder, but he's not telling me, the person most affected by the incident, anything about his investigation. I had no choice but to find the information myself." Laban smiled and said, "So you took advantage of the night to snoop around the palace? And you even dared to handle documents that you weren't allowed to touch? Is this the kind of thing your parents taught you? Instead of sneaking into your husband's office and messing with official documents in his absence, you should be helping him by fulfilling your duties as his wife. Perhaps the death of Count Libathon is linked to this bad morality that runs in your family." Shocked, Luna asked, "What did you say?" She then screamed at him, "My innocent parents were brutally murdered. How dare you?" The maid said, "Madam, you're very upset. That's enough now. Let's go back to your room." Suddenly they closed the office door on her. Stunned, she said, "What does this mean?" She tried to open the door, screaming, "Open the door immediately!" Suddenly, William grabbed her hands, and when she turned to him, he grabbed her and pulled her away from the door. Shocked, she said, "William Vitolang?" He looked at her hands and said, "Your hands are very cold." Then he kissed them and said, "Although the weather is still warm." Angrily, she pulled her hands away and said, "Let me go. You told me you were going to the palace, but I see you lied to me." So he moved closer to her and said, "The servants are hostile towards you. How could I leave my wife to face such circumstances alone?" Then he placed his hands on hers and continued, "So I ordered these people who are hostile towards me, along with Count Chaston enraged." She pulled her hands away and said, "So you ordered these people who hate me, in addition to Count Chaston, to force me into this bedroom?" But William said, "This is to protect you." Unsatisfied with this response, she screamed at him, "Protect me from what? The most dangerous person to me is you, And here, he looked at her and said, "My wife, you know nothing. Here in the capital, there are many nobles who wish for the downfall of others. Do you think that someone without anyone by their side can survive in a place like this? My wife, the safest place for you is by my side." He took her hand and said, "So please stay here, my wife." She said to him, "To think that the safest place for me is beside a murderer. That's ridiculous. Even a stray dog would laugh, William Vitolang." He looked at her silently, then sighed and said, "Even if you don't like it, you can't do anything about it. From this day forward, you will reside in this bedroom and you will take your meals here as well." Angrily, she screamed at him, "This is imprisonment." But he told her, "It's protection. Besides, no one will believe that you're imprisoned." And she was shocked by what he said. William approached her and said, "There's not a single servant here who is loyal to you." He then had her maid, whom he'd taken from her ex-fiancé Orville, dress her, saying, "And since we're newlyweds, I was finally able to pick up the trail of your ex-fiancé." He was heading towards the capital. Shocked, she thought to herself, "Orville is in the capital." William moved closer, smiling, and said, "At this rate, it will only be a matter of time before the Knights of Vitolang find him." She said nervously, "If they find him, what do you intend to do with him? Have you forgotten the promise we made?" William replied, "Ah, the promise. Since my wife hasn't shared my bed at all, it seemed the promise had been forgotten, and I was trying to decide how to proceed in light of that." Enraged, Luna grabbed him and said, "I haven't forgotten." She then approached him seductively and said, "So don't touch a single hair on Orville's head, Duke of Vitolang." She kissed him, and he looked at her in astonishment. He said, "It's strange. It's me who's standing in front of you, and it's me who's kissing you. So why does this feeling feel so unpleasant? He took her and said, "Let's go to bed." He did so with her and told her, smiling, "I wonder if he knows the kind of things his lover does in the arms of another man for him, and what she holds deep within her." She thought to herself, "I know he's only saying this to try to hurt me, but it actually pleases me. It's a very enjoyable anger, so much so that it might turn my hair white, and these tears may seem like they're due to the longing between us, but they're actually tears of sadness, because this is how one can lie to themselves." William kissed her, and as she slept, he looked at her, playing with her hair, and said, "I won't let you go from me again, Luna Vitolang." So he held her tightly and kissed her head.